Our candidates for district attorney are Elizabeth Egan and Lisa Sodergaard Smith-Camp. And we will have both of our candidates introduce themselves and give their opening statement. We can start with Elizabeth Egan.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for holding this forum. It's a great venue, and I'm pleased to be here. I have been the elected district attorney since 2003, and we've done a lot of great work in the DA's office since then. We've increased our prosecution units in gang, sexual assault, homicide, domestic violence, and we've added some important vertical prosecution units, like elder abuse, a life or parole deputy. These are things that, especially the elder abuse deputy DA, does a lot of outreach in the community, helping elders be prepared for predators who are trying to get into their bank accounts, and we get a lot of restitution for elders that are abused by friends, family, strangers, and it's an ongoing problem, and we're after that all the time. I'm proudly supported by the Deputy Sheriff, Sheriff Mims, the crime victims groups in the state, and look forward to continuing my work as District Attorney.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Lisa Sondergaard Smith-Camp. I am running for District Attorney. I worked in Mrs. Egan's administration for 12 years. Prior to that, I worked in the Madera County District Attorney's office, and I've been a prosecutor for 16 years. For me, it is the greatest job in the world. There is nothing better for me than getting to go to work in the morning and helping to keep our community safe by putting people into jail and prison that belong there, and also being able to be the person who is trained and has the experience to know when somebody doesn't belong in jail. I've been criticized by Mrs. Egan for being soft on crime, and I think that's ridiculous. I'm here running because we need to make changes in the DA's office. The people who have their boots on the ground in this community and in this county know that. I am proudly endorsed by Chief Jerry Dyer, who is the police chief of the Fresno Police Department, the Fresno Police Officers Association, Reedley, Sanger, Kalinga, Mendota, the Fresno Sheriff Sergeants, as well as Fresno Fire. Thank you for having me.
And my first question. Many candidates claim to be tough on crime. Being tough on crime often results in a heavier incarceration burden on young people of color. How do you respond to securing justice and trying to change the disproportionate number of people of color in custody? We'll start with Lisa.
Thank you, Juanita. That's a great question. The issue of addressing color and race within the court system has to be handled before they get to court. Because once we are presented with somebody who has committed a crime, we don't pick the color of their skin, we don't pick the background that they come from. So I think to suggest that people of color or people that are minorities are treated differently once they're in court is probably a little bit unfair. Because I've been in the courts for 16 years, and I can say from my own practice that never happens. We don't look at the color of somebody's skin, we look at the elements, we look at the facts, we look at what happened. So I think that the issue we have to have in Fresno County, because of our racial diversity and because of the issues we have with gangs and drugs, and the fact that our value system for our youth, whatever area of the county they come from, is shifting into the easy way out, into the gang life and into drugs, is we have to prevent it from happening. And we deserve a district attorney who will be out in the community assisting that and encouraging that.
The district attorney's office handles cases referred to by arresting agencies. We really are absolutely colorblind in evaluating any case. But where I look towards the disproportionate number of African Americans in the justice system is starting at juvenile hall. And at juvenile hall, the DA has been part of the origination of the drug court there, specifically for juveniles, the mental health court at juvenile hall. I've been DA since we moved from the Hall of Shame out to American Avenue. Probation has a grant and watches disproportionate cases, race and ethnicity going through the court system. It's It's a colorblind office in prosecution. We hire by merit, we promote by merit. I'm just kind of morphing the question, but I really am pleased the more we can have a diverse courtroom, judges, prosecutors, and defense attorneys to represent the community.
Our next question, with the impending release of even more convicted criminals from prison due to overcrowding, what can be done to impose alternative punishments outside of prison?
Well, in Fresno County, for the last 5 or 6 years, we've been working on the jail crowding problem. We have a criminal justice coordinating committee that is the DA's office, the prosecution, the defense bar, the court, the sheriff, Fresno State, criminology professors, and we started with who's in the jail, why are they in there, how long are they in there, and it's interesting because we're all partners in the justice system, and we were all learning a whole lot when we started actually doing the analysis. And now realignment hit, it exacerbated the problem with the jail, but it also brought more resources, the Community Correction Partnership, there's millions of dollars now. We are contracting with rehabilitation services in the county. That's the best thing about realignment. But the crux of the problem is, and it's been touched on, is accountability measures. Because even high-low level, you still need an accountability measure to help encourage them to participate.
As a DA who's been working inside the Fresno County courts for 12 years, I can tell you that in my humble opinion, the answer to dealing with this problem is, it does have to be, as Jarrett said, with some creativity. With the overcrowding and realignment, we have to make sure that we're putting the right offenders in the right beds. There's only a certain amount of beds. And so from the DA's perspective, what the DA's responsibility is, and the DA's portion of the criminal justice system that they can control, is to make sure that the right cases are filed, that the courts are not overloaded with cases that are later dismissed because of insufficient evidence, because they haven't been filed correctly. And furthermore, the DAs in court have to have the discretion to do their jobs. In order to do their jobs, they have to be well-trained. In order to be well-trained, they have to work in an environment where they are supported and they are trained and they are encouraged every day. We don't have that now. We have to return discretion to the prosecutors so that they can find the placement for these people, whether it's alcohol, drugs, or batterers treatment. We have to be able to have trained prosecutors to put those people where they need to go so that we can have a healthier community and we can get the overcrowding problem taken care of at the jail.
Our next question, and we'll start at this end. California's rate of repeat offenders is as high as any in the nation. What is your plan to affect this?
Well, again, I think this dovetails on the last question, is that people are repeating the behavior because the punishment or the programs are not working. So if you put the wrong person in the wrong program, or you incarcerate a person who could be rehabilitated with other measures, you're just spinning your wheels. So again, it has to come down to communication between the DA's office, the public defender, the courts, the law enforcement officers, and we also have to start to have this conversation with mental health. We have teenagers and adults in our county who are not getting the mental health services that they need. Mental health and drug and alcohol addiction are plaguing our society. They are the root of the problem that we have here. It is what leads people into incarceration. And we also have to deal with our gang problem, because that is what's happening. There's a culture out there, and without education and intervention for children and juveniles, we're never going to fix this problem.
There's a lot going on in California, and realignment has forced a lot of that. And with the Community Corrections Partnership, we have a transition pod in the jail. The early indications are it's very successful. You have to want to go into the pod. You have to then work with the program before you go out on the street. Families are involved to make sure there's a soft landing on the street. I mean, we've got a real problem, and it's unemployment here. Because once they get out of the jail, these are very complex problems. But there is a lot of new work going on in Fresno County over the last few years. And the Sheriff's Transition Pod is a huge one. diversion programs. We really have to focus on juvenile hall because that's where we're seeing a lot of it, and the juvenile drug court, the mental health court. They're all working to try to steer these kids away. And in truancy, I was on the truancy task force. We've got a lot of resources with the schools that we have to work together with the justice system on.
Final question. What will you do to create equitable opportunities for African Americans in your office, in your court?
We have been actively recruiting in the law schools, not just here in Fresno, but around the state, sending supervisors to go to their forums and their recruitment days and bringing people in. We have, we hire through a system of panels of deputy DAs and supervisors that are the first two panels to interview people that want to become deputy DAs, and then they move on to me and executive staff after they've been chosen basically by their peers. I have increased the diversity in the office. I think it's so important to this community and the judicial system. And it was pointed out to me as we started election season, I'm the first DA that's promoted an African American to an assistant DA position, the first Hispanic to the bureau chief position in the county of Fresno, but that had to be pointed out to me because I don't look at it that way. I promoted the best people we have, and I'm going to continue to recruit to keep the office reflecting the community.
If I were running the district attorney's office, I would continue the legacy that Mrs. Egan has built, because this may be the very first thing that we will agree upon in this election cycle, is that we do have a very, and I compliment you on that we have a very racially diverse office, both in our staff, our investigative staff, our secretarial staff, and our attorneys. I think that it is imperative to keep that happening and to keep recruiting and to keep seeking. And the way that we do that, we all know how Fresno is. Fresno is a very, large county, but it's really a small community. It's kind of an everybody knows everybody community. And if you don't get out into the community, you won't find those people. And I think that as DA, it's something that I do in my personal life. And I will continue to do that in my job duties as the person who's running the DA's office, is to get out and to encourage high school students to go to college and college students to go to law school, so that we can find that ethnic balance that we need and to continue having a diverse group of people running the DA's office.
Thank you very much for holding this forum. I really appreciate it. What brought me into this line of work was working in a rape crisis center. And I've been oriented towards victims since the beginning. What we do, we prosecute criminals, but we really protect victims. That's what we do every day. And I'm looking forward to continuing that work and reaching out to the victims. Identity theft is huge. It just tears up people's lives. We need to do more, not only to prosecute the offenders, but to help the victims get back on their feet. And as like I mentioned, elder abuse, but this fight against gangs. I mean, that in Fresno County, we will not, in this district attorney's office, ever let up on that. We're trying to release neighborhoods back to the good citizens trying to raise their kids there and not have them be gang turf areas. And that's why we've done the gang injunctions. I'm proud of the support of the unanimous support of the crime victims groups in the state. Sheriff Margaret Mims, deputy sheriffs, correctional officers, appreciate another term as your district attorney. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm running for the office of district attorney because I work there, and it's very difficult to sit next to Mrs. Egan and say this, but the district attorney's office is broken. It's a managerial disaster. We've lost 123 deputies during Mrs. Egan's tenure, and when you don't have a healthy environment for prosecutors to work in, we cannot fix and finish what the law enforcement officers do on the street. There is a reason that many law enforcement agencies in this county are supporting me. Not only Chief Dyer and the Fresno, Reedley, Sanger, Coalinga, Mendota City Police Associations, but also the California Narcotics Officers Association, the Sheriff Sergeants Association, the Fresno Firefighters, Mrs. Egan's own employees, the Fresno County District Attorney investigators are endorsing me. I am supported by the chairman of the Board of Supervisors, Andreas Borges and Susan Anderson. I'm endorsed by Dale Blickenstaff, the former Fresno County District Attorney, as well as Oliver Wanger, who is a former federal judge. Those endorsements mean something. Those are the people who have their boots on the ground. They know the truth, and I'd appreciate your vote.